Welcome to MSUA's Game Changers Live, where we speak with satellite and mobile connectivity thought leaders about industry trends, new technologies, and share what you need to know about where satellite technology is headed in the future. I'm your host, Lisa Dreer. Today, our guest is Dr. Onur Karabey. He is the CEO and co-founder of ALCAN Systems. Welcome to the show, Onur.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for inviting us. It's my pleasure to talk with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for making time for this. Maybe you can begin by just giving us a little bit of background on yourself and ALCAN Systems.
Sure. As you mentioned, I am one of the co-founders and CEO of ALCAN Systems. As ALCAN, we are located in Darmstadt, which is, 20 minutes away from the Frankfurt airport. And here we develop and market smart flat panel antennas, both for upcoming satellite constellations and millimeter 5G markets. Our innovative smart antenna solution is a combination of two well-established technologies. On the one hand, this is phased array, and on the other hand, this is the liquid crystal technology. So the phased arrays are well-known and proven technology. It's a German invention, and the know-how is widely available. But they are expensive, and we mainly use these antennas are utilized in the military or aviation markets. On the other hand, the liquid crystal technology is another German invention. It's well known from the display industry. One of our investors in Darmstadt, Merck, they are world's leading liquid crystal manufacturer. They developed this material, and the brand name is Licrion. So by combining liquid crystal technology and the phased array, actually we can reduce the production cost by using the well-established TV production line. And with this technology, this is I would like to highlight, we can even implement antennas even higher frequencies. So this is, maybe we can discuss this in the later minutes. So it's not only Ku, Ka band, but even for Q and V bands. So,
wow, that's really exciting. Do you see the use cases being more mobile applications or, set in one? Yeah.
Yes, I can. I mean, the high level, I can tell that, we are developing lowest cost and the most power efficient phased arrays. And with this, we are focusing to high volume and low cost markets. Like enterprise is the starting point. Then we will continue with the consumer market and eventually for the land mobile market.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, so we invited you here today to talk to us a little bit about where the future of the satellite industry is headed and mobile technologies. And I really wanted to start by asking you, what do you believe is the most important role that the satellite industry is playing in the future of mobile connectivity?
Yeah. Before I come to future, actually, I would like to first highlight a couple of, key offerings of the satellites. So this is, as well known, this is the coverage, high coverage, as well as high reliability of the satellite technologies. So the coverage is simple to follow up. There is a certain distance to Earth, so we have a high coverage on the Earth. In terms of reliability, for sure, it's not free. High reliability has been traditionally associated with high cost, but the new game-changing manufacturing methods and agile solutions reduce the cost. So because of those two offerings, the satellite industry played a great role in the past for broadcast, for the limited, the public internet access, for backhaul solutions, definitely, for governments and enterprise markets. So the future will focus more on data connectivity. And this will bring some additional requirements for the satellite services, like we know the low latency and low cost services to compete with the existing the mobile services. And due to low latency, we will see more services driven by MEO and the LEO constellations, or NGSO constellations. They will offer also high throughputs. And those NGSO satellite-based data services will enable agile applications like software-defined or cloud-based the solutions. And they will also empower on-the-move connectivity. On the consumer side, for example, the satellite is becoming a good alternative to fiber outside cities. In the past, the fiber have prevented the expansion of satellite communications. However, now the situation is changing. As readily available broadband satellite connectivity is significantly outperforming fiber rollout, and this will play a key role in economies for infrastructure and will help to build and implement new business models.
Right. So what role does 5G play in all of this kind of future vision that you have?
The 5G, I mean, we at the moment they are kind of, let's say, competing technologies, but over the time we expect that they will merge more and more. For example, some applications, connected car, we can think about that. So the reliability is important. This is what satellite services brings into the table. But satellites have some issues in city, for example, to have a line of sight communication. So this is what mobile networks can bring. So over the time, we really expect a merge in the industry.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, in terms of the next 12 to 24 months, what do you think will be some of the most significant changes that we'll see?
Well, the biggest change we believe will be the global usage of commercial NGSO services. So there are services already available from, for example, SES or 3BIP or Starlink started with the beta test, but to make them global and open up new markets are still a challenge. So NGSO constellations are not new. There have been several attempts in the past which are either failed completely or couldn't achieve their targets. So I would like to actually go a bit the details of that topic, because as I mentioned, the biggest change will be those guys will bring really the new the momentum they are already doing to the industry. But what are those challenges? So when we analyzed the early attempts, actually we identified three main challenges for them to be successful. The first one is, as is usual, this is the funding. It was an obstacle, especially I would say maybe the end of 19th. To get enough funding. But today's situation is different. We have seen that big funds or big companies with big pockets are investing in constellations like Amazon, SoftBank, Bharti Group. And it's not only those companies, but also the governments are supporting. So some examples are FCC and Starlink. I mean, early this year, they got around $900 million to provide internet access to rural areas, or relation between the Canadian government Telesat or UK government and OneWeb. So those are all, I would say, good movements, and we also see the same approach in China. So the funding is much more available than before. So that was the first challenge, but the situation is actually much better than before. The second challenge is the high satellite manufacturing costs as well as high launch costs. But again, today the situation is different. The first, the satellites and their capabilities are redefined. So the satellites are much smaller and much simpler, so that there are mass production lines implemented for mega constellations. And this reduced the cost dramatically. Also on the launch side, I believe all of us are watching those launches events arranged by the SpaceX or OneWeb and so on. So this is a really good moment. So those guys reduced the launch cost in the order of the magnitude per each kilogram. So SpaceX, Blue Origin, Rocket Labs, or Isar Aerospace in Germany, those are some examples. The third challenge, which hasn't solved yet, the challenge is, I believe, still on the table. That is the low-cost, smart, electronically steerable user terminals. So Starlink, I mean, we can take this as an example. It's a public information that they have been working on the antenna for a long time. So I really respect my colleagues there, the engineers there. They have an antenna. It's a mechanically supported, electronically steerable antenna. The performance, there are a lot of public information available on the internet. So it's a nice engineering piece. However, the question still is that, is it a feasible business? Recently, the CEO, Ms. Shotwell, she shared some cost information, which is the multiples of their target price. So even to achieve this cost, they ordered around 1 million units, 1 million antenna units. So the good news is, especially for all antenna players like ALCAN, even at day one, they are talking about millions of antenna units. So this is good. And specifically for ALCAN, I mean, even with this high volume, they are, as I mentioned, the current cost is the multiples of their target price. Yeah. So I am telling all those just to give you some idea how difficult as well as how important the terminal costs are.
Yes.
So I mean, just a couple of things, and I'm done with that. But the other technologies as well. I mean, what we think is without a cost-effective user terminal, it will be really hard or impossible for those constellations to survive.
Yeah, I imagine so. So actually, I think that leads into a really good direction, because a lot of what you were talking about really has been spurred on by the commercialization of space. And what do you feel like this is going to mean for the satellite industry and mobility?
I mean, first of all, commercial space, what is that? I mean, this is an ecosystem which includes, of course, the space and 7 billion users on the Earth. And commercialization space means, I mean, for us, it's a big business opportunities, which attracts, of course, investors and, of course, a lot of the high competition. So those are all good and healthy conditions to develop new technologies. So the question maybe here is why the business opportunity is big if space is involved. So we already discussed some business like the manufacturing, the launch businesses. Maybe let's take another example. This is what you already asked, let's say about earlier, the 5G. So as said, 7 billion users are on the Earth, and around half of them are not connected and looking for affordable connections. So space industry is an enabler here, as we discussed with the NGSO, the constellations. However, as is usual, they compete with mobile operators. The important point is that, I mean, as I mentioned, in the future, both players will collaborate more than today. More than their today's competition. Simply because of our, let's say, increasing demand. As a user, we always demand high throughput. This pushes the services to higher frequencies. So just to give you an example, today Ka-band terminals, the transmit frequencies are around 28 gigahertz, and the millimeter 5G frequencies allocated for US, for Japan, for Korea is also at 28 gigahertz. So the overlap is already there in terms of the frequency, but also we as a user, I mean, myself, I'm just interested in the service quality and the cost. So as long as I have, once I do the cost and performance analysis, and if I don't have any issue with the security, I don't care where the signal is coming. If it is a satellite, if it is the mobile, I don't care. So that's as a person, this is what I'm looking for. And this will force those two industries to merge more and more over the time. And we will see hybrid services, which will provide full coverage. As I mentioned earlier, in the city centers, even if you have thousands of satellites, there are buildings, there are trees, it will be hard to get direct connection to satellites. So the mobile services are actually a good solution for that. But if you go outside the city, then the problem for the mobile operator starts, because at higher frequency, the base station density should be at least 10 times more than today. And this is a huge OPEX and CAPEX for them. But if you have only one satellite flying over, for example, can cover most probably the whole Germany, and this is actually the cost-optimized network for them. So such a service will open a new, big, and global market. So from that perspective, we believe the dependency to satellite solutions are increasing. And from the financials, from the investors' perspective, I mean, if you check the investors' reports, the commercial space, the ecosystem is currently around $350 billion. And they expect this will grow to 2.5 trillion in next 30 years.
Amazing. So when you look at this from the user perspective, and when I talk about user, I'm thinking, an enterprise or government user, what type of criteria should they be looking at in terms of satellite services and solutions that they're considering?
Yeah, I think we somehow already touched to this question. I mean, as I said, ALCAN is, we will be focusing the enterprise, but I would like to answer that question if you are fine to really the mass market, the consumer market, and the land mobile market.
Sure.
So we demand definitely high throughput. This is, I will, number one. Up to now, the satellites were there, as I mentioned earlier, for TV services. But TV itself is not enough. We are demanding, let's say, the Netflix, and while we are streaming, so it's Netflix, it's the broadband communication, but while we are streaming, we also consume bandwidth still. I mean, in parallel to the stream, we do this. So high-speed connection is a need. Reliability is, again, another point. I mean, this is... how can I give an example? For example, when I was a kid, I'm still a young man, so I'm talking about, let's say, the near past. So the the internet was not common. It was maybe a kind of luxury depending on the country. But today's situation is different. For example, at home, the internet connectivity is a utility. So again, satellites with their reliable connection is actually, they will play a key role here. Security is important, as we mentioned, because that everything is getting smart and smart. So, and how to keep the cyber security, this is important. I am not an expert on that, but actually the government's investment to the NGSO is actually a good indication about the security of the satellite services. For me, those 3 points are the performance-related parameters. First, this is needed, but decision will be taken depending on the cost of this service. Yeah, so the low cost is also another point as a user we will be considering in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about these key new technologies that are coming into the market, like the antennas and ground systems that we need in order to connect to all this capacity that's being created by the mega constellations that are going to LEO orbit, what kinds of things do users need to plan for as these new technologies are coming into the market?
Yeah. I mean, of course, the following up those new technologies is important, especially the technologies which enable the agility, I believe, the flexibility. Those are important to, let's say, form your business, to form your solution. And these agile technologies, like I mentioned, for example, small satellites, they have agile payload. And since they are small, I mean, as I mentioned, the definition of the satellite is changing. And we see a lot of small satellites are developed for mega constellations, for IoT, for the communication network. So this is, I would say, and there are a lot of technologies, developments are happening on that field. So I believe this is one topic to be followed. The other one is similar, I would say, the software-defined satellites. So this gives a lot of flexibility. This also enables, over the time, I believe this will also enable users to become a kind of virtual satellite operator. Yeah, so the flexibility and agility, I believe this is the key. Reusable launch systems, as we discussed, important to reduce the cost, but reusability is another agility, I can imagine. And as I already mentioned, for the NGSO, the satellites, I believe the low-cost electronic distributable flat panel antennas are important. I mean, we know there are around maybe 30 companies in the industry, so our competitors. So we respect each other, but what we are doing, I think this is important and to be watched.
Okay, well, we're really excited to watch as things come onto the market. Thank you so much for making time to be here to share your insights about satellite mobile connectivity with us today. I look forward to catching up again soon so we can talk about further advancements as they come into the market.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Again, thanks for inviting us. I really enjoyed to talk with you. I hope that was useful.
Absolutely. I think our listeners will absolutely value all of the insights that you gave here today. I also want to take a moment to thank the Mobile Satellite Users Association for hosting these sessions. To learn how to participate in a Game Changers live session, become a member of the MSUA, or receive our weekly Satellite Mobile News newsletter, and it has all the latest satellite technology news and insights. Visit msua.org. And we'll see you next time on MSUA's Game Changers Live. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.